Okay, there are two types. Two types of improper integrals. And one type is infinite integrals. And the second type is discontinuous integrands. And I'm going to start with type 1. And for type 1, one or both of the limits of integration will be infinity or negative infinity. So let me write that. Type 1, infinite integrals. For this type, one or both of the limits of integration will be infinity or negative infinity. And I'm going to do a couple of examples. Here's the first example. So I want to consider the graph of y equals 1 over x, or f of x equals 1 over x. Consider the graph of f of x equals 1 over x. And I want to find the area under the graph and above the x-axis from x equal 1 to x equal infinity. So we want to find the area under the graph. So you did a lot of that last semester. Under the graph and above the x-axis from x equals 1 to x to infinity. I'm going to draw the graph here on the side. I hope you remember what the graph looks like, but if you've forgotten, I'm about to remind you. If I plug in x equals 1, I'm going to have 1 over 1. The y value is 1. If I plug in x equals 2, I'll get 1/2. And if I plug in x equals 3, I will get 1/3. And if I plug in x equals 4, I'll get 1/4. Now if I plug in 1/2, what do I get? 2. This is a reciprocal function. If I plug in 1/3, I'll get 3. This graph has a horizontal and a vertical asymptote. And if I picked negative numbers, I would get, if I pick negative 1, 1 over negative 1 is negative 1. 1 over negative 2 is negative 1/2. 1 over negative 1/2 is negative 2. Now, hopefully, you remember this graph from a previous class. I kind of talked through it and picked a few points, but hopefully you remember it from a previous class. What I want to do on this calculus problem is I want to find the area starting at 1 and going to infinity. The graph gets closer and closer and closer to the x-axis. Never touches. The integral for that is what we call is this type of integral, an improper integral. The integral would be the integral from 1 to infinity of 1 over x dx. That's using some things from last semester. So I'm going to show you how to write this problem, how to solve this problem, and how to write it properly. The biggest mistake students make is they don't write the mathematics the correct way for this. So we'll do that next.